Hiya, Martin here. Thank you for joining me for this week's project video. I hope you're all well and you've had amazing creative weeks and weekends in your workshops. This week, I think I'm going to continue my arty wall hanging kind of series that I've been going through over the past few weeks with this piece of oak burr. It's a really interesting shape. There's a lovely natural edge running all the way round it. And I've mounted it to a very large piece of ply, and the ply is about an inch. It's about an inch thick. That's attached to a large faceplate, and I've also added a bit of a counterweight up on this side, so it's not quite as out of balance as it could be. I've put 1, 2, 3, 4, about 9 screws in the back of the piece to keep it nice and firmly attached, and I am satisfied that this is as secure as it possibly can be. It's not too badly out of balance, as you can see. It's not 100%, but it's a lot better than it could be. Now on the faceplate, I have drawn all round into the centre, so when I was lining up the piece, I could roughly work out where I want the centre to be, and the centre is about there, I think. Yeah, there's my tiny little pencil mark. So there's going to be the centre of the piece, about there, and I'm going to put in some lines and a bit of decoration out here, so we have a sort of an offset collection of lines and decoration, leaving the rest of the wood as natural as we can possibly get, or as natural as we can possibly be. So, oh yeah, the other thing was it dips down slightly here, which is a little bit frustrating. So I might just have to leave that, because otherwise I'll have to take off best part of ½ an inch. And because the piece is only about 1.5 inches thick in the first place, I may not go that far. So I might just have to sand that bit. But it will make for a nice piece of a nice feature if the lines coming around here kind of disappear off. So without further ado, let's get the face shield on and the bowl gouge out. And being very careful to keep all body parts and stuff away from this edge here, let's start to get the piece nice and flat, and then we can think about where we're going to go from there. Speed wise, it's not going to be going very quickly. The lathe is still holding steady at this point, and that's at 340 RPM. It's pretty scary. It really is. It really is quite nerve-wracking. I'm making sure I'm keeping my arm out the way, but it's quite a scary piece to turn. Now, if you are going to do something like this, then you must be confident enough to undertake it. And if you're not, then don't. that's about as much as I want to do of that. It's coming up nicely, and I think it's going to be a really nice piece when it's finished. But for now, I want to start to sand the whole piece down and just kind of flatten it up. It is a little bit sketchy with the scraper, but it feels better than using a gouge, I have to say. So for now, I'm going to leave it, sand most of it back, and then we can work, or then I can work on the decorative bit in the middle. Okay, so with the sanding done, I've taken it down to 400, and it's quite nice. It's not completely flat, but I wouldn't expect it to be, because we've got hard bits and soft bits and stuff, but it does have a really lovely feel to it. So the next step I need to think about is the rings that I want to be putting onto it. And if I just spin it up, find a pencil first. So if I just spin it up, I can mark the centre, which is there, and then I can have a think about the rings that I want to be putting onto it. And if I mark the largest ring, so I don't want this to be too overpowering with the rings, because quite often less is more, as we all know. So I've got a centre point there, and I think the biggest ring ought to be I've broken another pencil. Right, where was it? There. And again, there's another pencil gone. Well, the biggest ring, I don't think this mark here is going to come out. The biggest ring is going to be about there. Another one about there. Yeah, I think I'm good. And I'm going to make them all. These are just guidelines, of course. Okay, I think you can see those okay. So I'm going to have a little one there. I think I'll go with I don't know, we'll see. But going to be turning lots of air to make these rings. So got to be very careful, of course, and use a mighty sharp tool, which I have. Okay, well, that's roughly what I want to do. So face shield back on. Pick up 3/8 bowl gouge. And let's see what we can do. I'm putting quite a lot of pressure into the tool rest to keep the tool steady. think that looks really nice. I'm happy with that. Right, next thing to do is I need to sand it by hand, which is going to take a while. So I can take that off, and then I'm going to just use some Abranet and then start to sand it all off. There's quite a bit of tear out in there, as you would expect, cutting air and what have you. So I'm starting with an 80 grit just to take off most of the tear out that's there, and then I'll work my way down the grits to 400 or possibly even 600. Okay, right, I've got the sanding done. I've taken it down to 600 by hand. I've rubbed it all down by hand. It's not as good as it could be if I was using, say, a rotary tool or something like that, but because these are quite narrow, I had to do it by hand because I don't have a tool that can get in there nicely and sand it, but it should be good enough for what we want to do. Now here is a little blowtorch. It's only a tiny little one, but I want to have a black line. I want nice natural wood, black, and then fading down a little bit into there to create the border and a nice solid, vivid border around this line to really differentiate between the natural wood and the inside here. So I've dusted the lathe down and I've given time for any dust in the air to disperse. So I'm going to very carefully burn that edge and that's all I want to do. Now, after we've applied the colour, yes, I'm going to put colour on it, I'm going to sand back this edge round here to take away these burn marks here, so we have a definite, vivid, absolutely obvious line between the natural wood and the colour. So I need to leave that to cool down for a few seconds, and I'll explain what I'm going to do with the colour. I want dark colours. I don't really want earthy colours particularly, but I want a very, very deep orange, deep red, reds on there. So I'm going to use ruby, burnt orange and earth colours, and I'm going to blend them on the towel, as you'll see, to create a cloudy mishmash of colours. Now where we've got the bark here, what I'm going to do there is just use the colours neat. Because the wood is already dark in those areas, I don't want to be putting on anything darker. So I've got gloves on, as usual, plenty of kitchen towel. So I'm going to start by putting on the raw colours on the natural edge, and I'm going to start with burnt orange, and I'm going to put the burnt orange on there. So you can see already that the burnt orange is looking much darker, so that's why I haven't darkened that colour down on the towel. I'm going to start here, I think, get some ruby on there. And then using the earth, mix that straight back onto the towel, get another squirt of ruby. So that's now going to be mixing on the towel, and I can go over that. That's really quite bold, that. Some of you are going to absolutely hate it, I'm sure, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as everybody says. But because we've got some gaps in there, because we've got these little features, I'm going to take some earth, and I need to come around this side because I'm a lefty. And I'm going to paint those in. So I'm going to go around the whole piece and paint the inclusions in, and then I'll sand that back around the outside, and you can see, and you should hopefully be able to see how bold and striking that design's going to be. So it's going to take me a little while. Now I've sanded back round the outside, and I've decided that the inside is a touch too dark at the moment. So I'm just going back over with the hand sanding, just to take off a little bit of that really dark colour. And oh, the other thing I've done is I've just burnt the tops of these little ridges here as well, just to add a little bit of sort of extra interest. So I'm just sanding this back just a touch, and I'm currently on 320. We'll start with flame, and we'll just push some flame. Look at that. That was definitely the right thing to do, was to sand that back a bit. That's much better. I think it's going to look brighter in real life than it does on the camera, but I'm really pleased with how that's come out. But now I need to sand these bits back again, so see you in a minute. Finally got there. I've sanded it back, but I also sanded the rings back a little bit as well, because I still thought they were a little bit on the dark side, so I just sanded those back a touch and added a slightly brighter addition of colour. And then the last thing to do for today, at least, is to get the glove on the right way around, is to apply the oil. And as you may or may not know, I'm a big fan of Danish oil. Tung oil would do exactly the same thing, but my preference is Danish. So I'm going to liberally apply some Danish oil all over the piece, which is going to bring out the figure in the wood, but I'm sure you know that already, in the design as well, and that will enrich those colours even more. Deepen everything further, so we have a really nice bold centerpiece. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how that has that's come out. That's a very bold, atmospheric, almost violent piece. I think it's almost violent, but I'm very pleased with it. But now I'm going to leave it for a couple of hours, answer some emails, and then come back, put another coat of oil on, and then I'm going to leave it overnight before I put the final finish on, which is when I'll come back to you. Okay, right, it's Wednesday now. I couldn't get back to the piece yesterday, but I've been looking at it over the last couple of days, and I think it's missing something. I mean, it's bold enough as it is, I think it looks great, but I think it's just missing just a tiny bit. The oil's gone off now, and what I'm going to do next is probably not entirely advisable, but unless you have a go, you're not going to know. I'm going to take the airbrush to it, and instead of using my normal siphon feed, I'm going to use the mixing pot. Because I want to put just something around the outside here, and I want it to kind of echo the red, the dark reds and oranges that are in there. So I'm going to take the earth colour and squirt a couple of squirts of earth in there, and the ruby as well. Just making up the mixtures. I'm not using any kind of methodology. Give it a careful little shake just to mix it up. Find a bit of towel. That's okay. Right, so just round the outside, I want to put a bit of a border. So I'm going to come at it at that kind of angle. There we go, I'm happy with that, I think. Now, I was a little bit worried about applying the dye over the top of the oil. Okay, maybe I'm not happy with it. Yeah, I was a little bit worried about applying the colour over the top of the oil, but it seems to have taken quite well, reasonably well. I'm going to have to wait for it to dry. About 10 minutes later, and the colour that I've applied around the outside has dried off, and I'm really happy with how it has turned out. I'm going to cover it now with a clear satin sealer, so I don't actually have to touch the colour in case it runs, because remember, it is sitting on top of the oil, which has also dried. So a couple of coats of sealer, and then I'm going to finish the central area here with a wax. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do the outside bit with a wax yet or not, we'll see. So I'm going to apply the sealer. Let that dry. I'll put on another coat, at least maybe another 2, and then the wax. It's been a little while now, but the sealer is dry. It's really humid in the workshop today, so it's taken a little bit of time for the sealer to go off. And now, because we've got these little inclusions in here, applying a wax with a towel is going to be really quite tricky. So I'm going to use a microcrystalline wax and apply it with a brush. So this is going to take a little while. Now, you may ask why I'm not using a lacquer. Well, the answer to that is quite simple. I don't want to. I'm not keen on using lacquers. I like to have a little bit more of a sort of a natural finish to my work. So I'm going to apply the microcrystalline wax with a brush instead. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll put another coat on, and then let that dry off as well, and then we can buff it up. So with a buffing mop on the drill, I'm going to start buffing it up. There's the back of the finished piece. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I'm not sure which way up it's going to go yet, but I will decide that before I put it up for sale. The back just needs a little bit of sanding, bit of oil, and then it'll be ready to go with its hanging bracket. And there is the front of the piece. I think you can see that. It's got quite a nice shine to it, and the reds in the center there have come out really nicely. Not sure if they come out particularly well on the video. I will find out when I edit it. So there it is. I hope you enjoyed this week's project video. Thank you very much indeed for watching. But for now, down here are a couple of videos I think you might be interested in. One of them's mine, and another one is from another turner here on YouTube. So for now, bye-bye.